Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be providing a long-term market analysis update for Vechain. We're going to cover some very key levels of support, especially to watch if we're unable to hold these lows that we made back here in June. We're going to talk about some moving averages on the weekly chart, as well as the Vechain Bitcoin ratio and some interesting things playing out on this pair. So if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, by the way, I'm fairly active over at Twitter. I will leave a link to my Twitter page in the description below if you guys want to go ahead and check that out. So first, I do want to talk about this key level of support that we're still holding, the one that formed back here on this June low, ranging from 2 all the way up to 2.2 cents. So if we go all the way back here to when Vechain first initially launched right here in 2018, we can see this is actually a very key level in which we had this first initial weekly candle coming below this, and then a retest of resistance formed right here in September on that move right back up into that zone. And then we rejected off of that and then formed lower lows, continuing into this bear market. And then eventually we had a retest throughout 2020, the summer of 2020. We had two retests, both forming resistance, both rejecting off of it. And Vechain actually had a pretty significant move following these two rejections. You can see that from August, on that second rejection, Vechain actually dropped about 62%. And this rejection came when Bitcoin was roughly going sideways. So that really tells me that this is a key level, a huge and strong level of resistance. Eventually, when we did break above it, you can see we really kicked off that bull market, really increased the rate of change of this move, and went on to form this pretty mania-like peak in April 2021. So we have come back down to that level. Again, this is the level that held as support on the retest in June. And we're also retesting that right now on this weekly candle. So it's going to be very important to watch for the weekly candle close to see if Vechain can continue to hold this as support. A lot of other altcoins are actually starting to break down, form lower lows, and lose their support regions. So it is very likely that Vechain could fall suit, especially if Bitcoin continues to have this weakness and continues to hover in that $15,000 to $16,000 range. Now, this certainly hasn't broken yet, so that's a positive sign. And from my perspective, this will be support until proven otherwise. Now, beyond that, we also have some support levels further down from here if we do manage to break this low, break the support structure, and come back down. The next longer term zone I will be watching out for is 0.86 cents. You can see going all the way back here to 2018, that is the level we retested and held as support after initially losing this zone around 2 to 2.2 cents. So we came all the way back down, bounced off of this as our support, and then we had that lower high coming up right into that rejection. And then eventually we came back down, lost that level, and that acted as the resistance and the range high throughout 2019 and 2020. So you can see we had several rejections throughout April, May, and June, coming up to this level, 3 attempts, rejecting, coming up to this level again in November of 2019. And then lastly, this move in February, ultimately going into that capitulation back down to the range lows. And then you can see when the Vechain eventually did break back above it, we had that retest of support, flipped it into support, and bounced from there. This was the pivot point. So this is going to be a huge level to watch out for if Vechain is not able to hold this support level, which there's certainly no guarantees that Vechain has to retest this zone. But again, if we do get that move back down, this is really where I'm going to expect buyers and demand to start to step in. This is the longer term level I would get interested in Vechain if we're unable to hold this support. Now, in terms of resistance, I've been talking about these two weekly moving averages throughout all of my Vechain videos, as they have acted as key resistance throughout this entire bear market. So the red line is the 20-week simple moving average, the green one is the 21-week exponential moving average. And again, these have been the resistance throughout this bear market. Eventually, when Vechain broke these in November of 2021, you can see we actually flipped it on this rejection right here in December. We had a rollover forming lower lows, and then we had another rejection right here in April. Another retest in August, unable to break above it, and just this weekly candle we have had another retest, and as of right now it does appear to be looking like another rejection similar to the last 3 previous attempts. So it's going to be really important to watch how this has some follow through. If we continue to reject and roll over like we did on the last 3 attempts, that will most likely mean that Vechain is unable to hold this zone. If we can actually start to reverse from here and have another attempt that will look different than the last 3 rejections and could entail Vechain might start to break back above these. And breaking above this resistance level would be very bullish, again, because that would eliminate the risk and the possibility of forming these lower highs and rolling over to form lower lows like we did on the last 3 previous attempts. So now I want to talk about the Vechain Bitcoin ratio. And as I discussed earlier, this does have some pretty interesting things going on. We have a break of this longer term downward sloping trend line. If I just remove this moving average, you can see that has been the resistance ever since this peak back here in April 2021 against Bitcoin. We've had this very long period of decline against Bitcoin where Vechain has underperformed and seen over an 80% decline with respect to Bitcoin. But you can see we have started to break this downward sloping trend line. We've started to come back up, and instead of rejecting and forming lower lows like we did on the last 3 previous attempts, again, rejecting, coming back down, forming lower lows, continuing that pattern. Instead of doing that, we're actually starting to break through this downward sloping trend line, and we haven't broken the lows that we formed back here in May. So that's a pretty positive sign. You can also see that we're starting to form this new uptrend where we do have some higher lows as of right now. So watch to see if Vechain on the Bitcoin ratio can continue to maintain this uptrend of higher lows. And ideally, if we can make a higher high coming back above this August high, which is around 142 Satoshis, that would be a very bullish sign that we might be starting to reduce the momentum to the downside and form some sort of new trend. Now, beyond that, we also do have the 200-day simple moving average, which is the green line. And if I just remove all these drawings, you can see that 200-day average has been resistance on both of these rejections. This first one in November of 2021, and then the next one here in March earlier on in this year. But we have started to break back above that, so that's a pretty positive sign. We're no longer having these very sharp rejections off the 200-day average where Vechain on the Bitcoin ratio does come down to form these lower lows. So that's a positive sign. Again, we are holding that low structure and we're starting to break back above the 200-day average, which is a great sign in general because it no longer gives the impression that we're in this very harsh downtrend. So I hope you guys did enjoy the content and the analysis. By the way, make sure to check out my Twitter page. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.